and I'm honored to stand in solidarity, and that is a key word. It was a key word for Martin Luther King. It should be a key word for us today. It was a key word in Madison, Wisconsin, in solidarity against the efforts of Governor Walker and others who are seeking to undermine the rights of workers and everyone else. So thanks to unions, we've come a long way. You know, organized labor and civil rights laws have built the middle class and have brought greater dignity to all Americans. Together, with your help, we can pass employer free choice. We can ensure that trade agreements actually help grow our economy. We can stop the cuts to job training programs and rolling back the OSHA funding. We can make sure that we protect project labor agreements and prevailing wages, and the right to organize and bargain collectively. The very basis of all of these things that we mentioned is under fire. We can also stop together with you the denigration of teachers and first responders and public sector employees. We must look beyond the traditional divisions within labor and between labor and other groups. That's what Martin Luther King was saying. That's what got him in hot water, because he was saying we have to bridge these differences. And as Randy Weingarten said, we have to seize this moment. Seize the moment of Madison, Wisconsin, and in her words, turn this moment into a movement. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you all.
Well, thank you very much. When Charlie called me, I changed my schedule because I do think this is a defining and important moment to be here. And when I think about Dr. King's work, I think about today, and I think about the Chinese curse, which says, "May you live in interesting times." And I would add challenging as well. And there is no doubt, as we battle for the dignity and very survival of the working class, that we indeed live in very interesting and challenging times. And it is that really great American middle class that helped build this country that is under siege today. Hardworking teachers, firefighters, construction workers enjoying Bacon-Davis provisions, sanitation workers, all being blamed for our budget deficits, when CEOs and bankers who brought our economy to the brink of a new depression because they wanted to be billionaires instead of millionaires. And right-wing ideologues who are waging a coordinated strategic attack on labor rights and working conditions from New Jersey to Wisconsin. I think it said it all. You know, they march under the banner of fiscal responsibility, but we know that the ultimate objective, what it really is, when Governor Walker rejected concessions made by the unions that would have eliminated the budget deficit, therefore being able to solve the fiscal situation, he rejected it. And so he made it very clear then that this was not about balancing budgets, but about busting unions. And that's what we are up against, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I will say that elections, I'm rushing through because I only have 5 minutes. And in the Senate, it takes that long to get ready. So elections have consequences, though. Elections have consequences. Sometimes I know our brothers and sisters in labor just say, oh, they're all the same, doesn't matter. Well, elections have consequences. We are seeing the consequences. Here at home, we're seeing the consequences in Washington as we go back and try to keep the government open this week for the nation's needs. And so, you know, in the last cycle, I chaired the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, which means I was responsible for helping preserve a Democratic majority in the Senate. And we face an unprecedented situation because of the Supreme Court's decision that allowed corporate money to be spent in federal elections. Now, how much do you think was spent? $70 million just against Senate candidates. Does that include the House of Representatives? Just against Senate Democratic candidates. Now, do you think there was $70 million in corporate spending in federal elections to pursue the common person's agenda? I don't think so. And that is what our challenge is here today. And it seems to me that we all know the realities. We know that, in fact, if you are a union worker, you are more likely to earn 11% more than a non-union worker. If you are a union worker, you are more likely by 28% to have health care. If you are a union worker, you are more likely by 54% to have a pension. So we understand, we know that in those states that have the most organized, industrialized states that have the most organized labor, you have the highest education achievement levels, which is incredibly important for the nation's competitive future. But the reality is that we are not seen, and when I say we, organized labor is not seen as that middle class. And we need to expand beyond our brothers and sisters in labor to talk to our neighbors and friends for them to understand that it is our achievements in labor that raises the standards for every American, which created this great middle class in this country. It seems to me that we can start by doing that to talking to our own family members who are not union members. Because I can tell you, I have been in some discussions with family members of those who have a union member, and I'm surprised at the discussions I have. So we could start building this foundation broader by just talking to our family of how the union has changed the reality for them in so many ways, including educational opportunity. Let me just go on to say the following. History teaches us that when we have one group of people turned against another, it ends up rather poorly, and it ends up rather frightening. What we see today is that instead of meeting the challenges as Dr. King was seeking to meeting and bringing people together in common cause, because in essence, what is a union? It simply is bringing people, friends and neighbors, working in the same place together in common cause to achieve a better opportunity. No one wants to see the company close, because at the end of the day, if the company closes, there's no jobs. So there is a commonality of interest. But by the same token, just bringing people together in common cause so that they can organize and that they can put their best effort forward to achieve both the conditions that will improve the quality of their lives and the conditions that will improve the quality of the company's lives make common sense. Now, those who don't want to live under that set of circumstances want to throw us back to a time and place we don't want to be. But I have to be honest with you, we need all of our brothers and sisters in labor to raise their voices, to speak to their families, to speak to their neighbors, to those they worship with, and have them understand that I remember that saying in World War II, and I'll end on this. First, they came after the trade unionists, and since I was not a trade unionist, I did not object. And then they came after the Catholics, and since I was not a Catholic, I did not object. And then they came after the Jews, and since I was not a Jew, I did not object. And then they came after me, and there was no one left to object. My friends, let's not be in a position that there is no one left to object. Huh? Thank you very much.
It's now my pleasure to introduce three of our labor leaders here in New Jersey, starting with Charles Hall, president of the RWDSU Local 108 and chairman of the new Working Families United for New Jersey Coalition. Then we'll hear from Rahman Muhammad, SEIU Local 817 president and SEIU New Jersey State Council president. And then finally, Joyce Alston, president of the Bakery, Confectionery, and Tobacco Workers Local 53.
Good morning, brothers and sisters, or almost good afternoon, brothers, sisters, and friends. I am proud to take part in this day of solidarity to commiserate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., and to support a worker's right to collectively bargain. I'm especially proud to have my son here, who I took out of school, who needs to understand and see this and learn firsthand what it's all about. Stand up, Charles. I thought it was vitally important for him to be there because they're the next generation to fight this fight. I am honored and much humbled to be a part of this forum and discussion about Dr. King. I am 47 years old and a benefactor of the great legacy. I only sit here by standing on the shoulders of great men like Dr. King and other civil rights leaders. I believe, brothers and sisters, we are currently experiencing an organized effort from the right wing to push down the middle class working families through elimination of their union and their rights to bargain. We are witnessing this effort being played out in Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, and here in New Jersey and other states. In New Jersey, we find our unions and the middle class to be under siege. The response has been an awakening of a movement, a coming together of grassroots organizations, community, to speak out for a common belief and the right to have a union and collectively bargain. In a meeting and discussion with labor leaders and concerned parties on how to best deal with this attempt to destroy the middle class and eliminate bargaining rights and weaken unions, our conclusion was that we must work together with other organizations that share the values of working families. In response to this, we have established a grassroots organization called Working Families United for New Jersey. Our coalition is comprised of labor, civil rights, women, retirees, student, environmental, and faith organization. This organization believes in social, economic justice for New Jersey families, strengthening our communities by promoting good jobs, green jobs, education, quality and affordable health care, and family and sensible budget solutions for working families in New Jersey. Brothers and sisters, lessons can be learned from Dr. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement on forming coalitions, organizations to work for a common goal from a position of strength. In the 1950s, in the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement, it was the NAACP, the National Urban League, the formation of the Montgomery, Alabama Improvement Association. This led to other organizations signing on because of the nonviolence. Institutions such as churches, fraternal orders, professors, teachers, doctors, and begin mass protests. In 1964, once again, we saw the coming together of other groups, Southern Christian Leadership, Conference Students, Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and other civil rights groups. Finally, in Memphis in 1968, we saw the coming together of labor, NAACP, black leaders, ministers, and others. Ironically, today, there is a movement and attack on public employees to bargain and attempt to weaken unions. Thinking back or reading the history of a great deal of sacrifice and struggle that went into it, we see we are being attacked today. We must not be idle, passive in this fight at this time. We must have a call to action, joining forces with grassroots organizations, sharing working family values. Thank you.